Ever tossed out the butt end of a head of lettuce, a handful of potato peels, or a green onion root and thought, well, that is just garbage? What if I told you that most of that stuff can actually regrow into real harvestable food right on your kitchen counter or in a few pots on your patio? In this video, I am going to show you exactly how I took everyday kitchen scraps and turned them into a full, productive little garden. We are talking green onions, lettuce, celery, potatoes, ginger, herbs, and more. Plus, stick around to the end because I've got a trick for one particular scrap that most people throw away, and it can produce food for years. Let us get into it. Regrowing food from kitchen scraps is honestly one of the most satisfying things you can do in the garden. It costs almost nothing. It cuts down on waste. And once you see that first little green shoot pop up from something you were about to throw in the compost bin, you are hooked. The good news is you do not need a big garden or any fancy equipment. So let us start with the most important question. Which scraps are actually worth your time? Now here's the thing nobody tells you. Not every kitchen scrap is going to regrow into something useful. The internet is full of videos showing avocado pits in water glasses and pineapple tops in pots. And sure, those can technically grow, but you are looking at years before you would ever see fruit from an avocado pit, if it even produces at all. And a pineapple top. That is a 2 to 3 year commitment for one single pineapple. Fun science project, but not exactly practical for putting food on the table. So let me save you some time and frustration. The scraps that regrow quickly and reliably are green onions, leeks, lettuce, celery, potatoes, sweet potatoes, ginger, and fresh herbs like basil, mint, and rosemary. These are the ones that will actually give you something to harvest in days or weeks, not years. Green onions are probably the fastest. I have had them regrow 6 inches in under a week, just sitting in a jar of water on the windowsill. Lettuce and celery will send up new leaves within about 5 to 10 days. Potatoes and sweet potatoes take longer, maybe 2 to 3 months, but the yield is fantastic. And ginger is a slower grower at 4 to 6 months, but one piece from the store can multiply into a huge harvest. The scraps I would skip if your goal is actual food production are avocado pits, pineapple tops, mango seeds, and citrus seeds. They are fun to experiment with, but they are long-term ornamental projects more than anything. Stick with the reliable ones, and you will be eating from your scrap garden within the first 2 weeks. Now let us talk about getting set up, because you really do not need much. For the water-based regrows like green onions, lettuce, and celery, all you need are a few clean glass jars or even old drinking glasses. Mason jars work great. Just make sure they are clean so you are not introducing any bacteria to the scraps right off the bat. You will also want a sunny windowsill. South-facing is ideal if you have one, but any window that gets at least 4 to 6 hours of light will do the job. For the soil-based regrows like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and ginger, you are going to want some containers. They do not have to be fancy. 5-gallon buckets with drainage holes drilled in the bottom work perfectly. I have used old storage totes, fabric grow bags. They're going to rot on you every single time. For potting mix, grab a good quality premium potting mix from your local garden center. Do not use dirt from the yard. Garden soil is too heavy for containers, it compacts down, and it can carry diseases and weed seeds you do not want. A nice, light potting mix with some perlite or vermiculite mixed in gives you that good drainage and aeration that container plants need. If the mix already has slow-release fertilizer in it, even better. That will feed your plants for the first few months without you having to think about it. One more thing on setup. Grab a small spray bottle. For those early days when scraps are just starting to root, you do not want to blast them with a watering can. A gentle mist keeps things moist without disturbing the delicate new roots. Trust me, a $2 spray bottle will save you a lot of frustration. Now, what I have been sharing with you so far is really just the starting point. If you are serious about turning your kitchen scraps into real, consistent food production, I put together a complete guide that lays the whole thing out for you. It is called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol, and it is everything I have learned about regrowing food from scraps, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this week. It covers which scraps are genuinely worth your time and which ones to skip. It walks you through the exact setup and methods so you are not guessing. And it includes a full 30-day calendar, so you know exactly what to do each day. Click the link in the description right below this video, just scroll down a little and you will see it. Or if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, you can take out your phone, open up your camera like you're going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think you'll be glad you grabbed it. All right, let us get back to growing. We are starting with the water-based regrows because these are the easiest wins and they will get you excited fast. Green onions are the absolute best place to start. Next time you buy a bunch, instead of tossing the root ends, cut about 1 inch up from the white root base and stand those little stubs upright in a jar with about 1/2 inch of water. Set them on a sunny windowsill and change the water every 2 days. That is it. Within 3 to 4 days, you will see bright green shoots pushing up, and within a week to 10 days, you will have full-length green onions ready to snip. I keep a rotation of 3 jars going at all times, and I honestly have not bought green onions from the store in over a year. One tip I have learned is to not let them go too long in water. After about 2 to 3 weeks, the quality starts to drop. At that point, either harvest what you have and start fresh with new scraps, or transplant them into a small pot of soil where they will keep producing for months up from the base, and set that base cut side up in a shallow dish with about 1/2 inch of water. Within about 5 days, you will see tiny new leaves forming from the center. Now, here is where I want to be honest with you. Regrowing lettuce from the base will give you a nice little handful of leaves, but it is not going to produce a full new head. Think of it as bonus salad greens, not a full replacement. The leaves tend to be a bit more bitter, and the plant will want to bolt, meaning it sends up a flower stalk and gets bitter, especially if it is warm. But as a quick little harvest of tender baby greens in under 2 weeks with 0 effort, absolutely worth it. Change the water every other day and give it as much light as you can. Celery is another great one for the water method. Cut about 2 inches up from the base and set it in a shallow bowl with warm water, about 1 inch deep. Place it somewhere it gets good light. You should see tiny yellow-green leaves emerging from the center within about a week. After about 10 days, when you have got a nice little cluster of new growth, I recommend transplanting it into a pot with good potting mix. Celery is a heavy feeder, and it will need those nutrients from soil to really produce stalks worth eating. In a pot, keep the soil consistently moist but never waterlogged, and give it a liquid organic fertilizer every 2 to 3 weeks. Full-size celery stalks take about 3 to 4 months from transplant, so this one tests your patience a bit, but the flavor of homegrown celery is something else entirely. It is so much more intense and aromatic than what you get at the store. Now let us move into the soil-based regrows, and this is where things get really exciting because the yields can be huge. Potatoes are probably the biggest payoff of any kitchen scrap. You know those potatoes in the back of the pantry that have started sprouting little white or purple eyes? Do not throw those out. That is free seed stock. Take each potato and cut it into chunks, making sure each chunk has at least 1 or 2 good eyes on it. Let those cut pieces sit out on the counter for about 24 to 48 hours, so the cut surfaces dry and form a callus. This step is important because it prevents the pieces from rotting once they go into the soil. Then, fill your container about 1/3 full with potting mix. Lay your seed pieces on top with the eyes facing up about 8 to 10 inches apart, and cover with about 4 inches of soil. Water them in gently. As the green shoots come up and reach about 6 to 8 inches tall, mound more soil or straw around the stems, leaving just the top few inches of leaves exposed. This is called hilling, and it encourages the plant to produce more tubers along the buried stem. Keep hilling as they grow. In about 70 to 90 days after planting, the foliage will start to yellow and die back. That is your signal that the potatoes are ready. Tip out the container, and it is like digging for buried treasure. From just 3 or 4 sprouted potatoes from my pantry, I have pulled out over 10 pounds of new potatoes from a single 5-gallon bucket. Sweet potatoes are a different process, but just as rewarding. You do not plant pieces of the sweet potato directly. Instead, you grow slips, which are basically little rooted shoots. Take a whole sweet potato and suspend it halfway in a jar of water using a few toothpicks to hold it up, just like you might have done as a kid in school. Set it in a warm, bright spot. Within 2 to 4 weeks, you will see slips sprouting from the eyes. Once those slips are about 6 inches long and have little roots forming at the base, gently twist them off the sweet potato and either place them in water to strengthen the roots for another week or plant them directly into a large container filled with potting mix. Sweet potatoes need room to spread, so use the biggest container you have got. A 15 to 20-gallon fabric grow bag is ideal. They love heat, so do not plant them out until nighttime temperatures are consistently above 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Give them about 90 to 120 days, and when the leaves start yellowing and fall, dump out that container. One sweet potato from the grocery store can easily give you 5 or 6 slips, and each slip can produce 3 to 5 sweet potatoes. The math on that is pretty incredible. Ginger is another fantastic one. Grab a nice plump piece from the store with a few little bumps or eyes starting to form. Soak it in water for 24 hours to wash off any growth retardant they spray on commercial ginger. Then, lay the pieces flat in a wide container, cover with about 1 inch of potting mix, and keep the soil lightly moist. Ginger is slow to start, so do not panic if you see nothing for a few weeks. Once it sprouts, water regularly and give it bright, indirect light. 4 to 6 months later, you will tip out that pot and find a whole tangle of fresh ginger that smells absolutely incredible. Now for the herbs, and these might be the most practical of the bunch because fresh herbs at the store are ridiculously expensive for what you get. Basil, mint, and rosemary can all be regrown from cuttings. Next time you buy a fresh bunch, snip a stem about 4 inches long just below a leaf node. Strip the lower leaves off and place it in a jar of water. Basil and mint will root in about a week. Rosemary is slower, usually 2 to 3 weeks, but it is well worth the wait. Once you see roots about 1 inch long, transplant into a small pot with good potting mix, and you have got a herb plant that will keep producing for months or even years. Let us talk about some common problems you might run into and how to solve them. First, slime or bad smells in your water jars. This is the #1 complaint, and it is almost always because the water is not being changed often enough. Change it every 2 days, no exceptions. If things are already slimy, rinse the roots gently under cool running water. And start fresh. Second, mold on the soil surface. This usually happens when there is too much moisture and not enough air circulation. Back off on watering a bit, and if you are growing indoors, a small fan nearby on low does wonders. Third, scraps that just rot instead of sprouting. This happens most often with potatoes and ginger. With potatoes, make sure you let the cut pieces callus over before planting. With ginger, make sure your soil is moist but never soggy. Overwatering in the early stages before roots are established is the fastest way to lose them. Fourth, leggy, weak growth that flops over. Not enough light. It is that simple. Move your plants to a brighter window or consider a basic grow light, especially through winter. You can pick one up for about $20, and it makes all the difference. Fifth, everything is growing but nothing tastes good. This usually comes down to nutrition. Plants growing in plain water will eventually run out of steam. Transplant into soil and feed regularly with a balanced liquid fertilizer, and the flavor will improve dramatically. Now for that bonus tip I promised you at the very beginning. Save your carrot tops. I know, that sounds odd, but hear me out. You are not going to regrow a whole carrot from the top, but you will regrow the carrot greens, and those greens are loaded with nutrition and have a beautiful flavor similar to parsley. Cut about 1 inch off the top of your carrots, set them cut side down in a shallow dish of water, and in about a week, you will have a flush of vibrant, feathery greens. Toss them into salads, blend them into pesto, or use them as a garnish. Most people have no idea carrot greens are even edible, let alone delicious. I started doing this on a whim, and now I save every single carrot top. It is one of those small things that makes you feel like you are getting every last bit of value out of your groceries, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Now, what I have shared with you today is a real, solid foundation, but it is still just one piece of the bigger picture. If you want to stop guessing and start a scrap garden that actually keeps producing week after week, I would really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It is called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol, and it is everything I have learned about regrowing food from scraps, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this week. It covers which scraps are worth your time and which ones to skip entirely. It gives you the exact setup and method so nothing goes to waste. And it includes the full 30-day calendar with daily tasks so you always know what to do next. There are 2 easy ways to grab it. The first is to click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you will see it. The second way, if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, is to take out your phone, open up your camera like you are going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it is the best investment you can make in your kitchen garden this year. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.